Welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast with big new ideas about credit unions and conversations about innovative technology with credit union and fintech leaders. This podcast is brought to you by Quillo, the real-time loan syndication network for credit unions, and by your host, longtime credit union and financial technology journalist Robert McGarvey. And now, the CU 2.0 podcast with Robert McGarvey.
Can a credit union be a credit union without human employees? Are credit unions in the age of AI at risk of losing the very humanity that distinguishes them? In this provocative episode, keynote speaker Joshua Evans, who bills himself as an expert on the workplace of the future, talks about how AI is transforming credit unions, how parts of this are to the good, but he insists credit unions need to maintain their humanity. That's a lot to think about, but it's thinking that needs doing today, as plainly AI is transforming many workplaces, credit unions most certainly included. How often did you use AI yesterday? When a member contacts your credit union, is he/she greeted by a human or an AI bot? Incidentally, Google Gemini tells me the credit union needs humans on its boards. A completely non-human credit union is just not possible, says Google Gemini. An LLM or AI bot cannot be named to a board seat. And Google Gemini raises a philosophical topic. Quote, the credit union movement is built on the people helping people philosophy. A 100% automated entity would likely struggle to maintain its tax-exempt status or its identity as a cooperative if there's no human community to cooperate. Close quote. Heavy stuff. Listen up. Now, let's start with you have an eye-catching line in your email to me. Technology is accelerating faster than credit union culture is adapting. What do you mean, and why is this important?
That's a great question. Now, I think we all know that the speed of everything is happening so quickly, right? Whether it's automation, implementing AI tools, and I think it's a huge opportunity. But I think the biggest problem that I see is that, AI and automation, they're going to solve a lot of the operational problems that credit unions have, right? So like faster underwriting, smarter fraud detection, automating member services, right? Better data insights for what your members are doing. But I think there's a paradox in there, right? Because the more efficient the systems have become, the less human interaction occurs naturally within a credit union. And the problem with that is the one thing that sets credit unions apart from other financial institutions is the human component. And I think that if we lose sight of that, it can really be detrimental, because people that bank with a credit union, they're not looking just to store their money. They're looking for an organization that truly cares about them and truly cares about their financial goals. And so I think that's where the big opportunity lies in this new world we're emerging into.
I think a related point that supports what you say is that credit unions also historically have sold themselves on the basis of their human strengths. This is, you'll be banking with or doing financial services with your people just like you, neighbors of yours. And if that goes away, then how's a credit union going to sell itself? Why should I prefer it over Venmo?
That's a very good question. I think efficiency is wonderful, right? But if efficiency quickly removes the connection, then credit unions risk losing the very thing that makes them different from banks and from fintechs, right? I think back to handwritten letters, right? Email's original goal wasn't to replace humanity, right? The humanity of receiving a physical letter. It was created for efficiency. So I can send pertinent information immediately. And so it can have an audit trail. But slowly, email has replaced the handwritten letter. And I honestly think it's removed a piece of that human component of physically receiving a piece of paper that somebody spent the time to write down and then to send to me. And so while it can seem like efficiency is a great thing and we need to move as fast as possible, we need to adapt as fast as possible, I would hate for us to lose what truly makes us unique. And in the credit union world, what truly makes them unique is that human connection. It's those relationships. That's what they depend upon. And that's what, as you said, that's what they've historically competed on.
Now, when you say this to a credit union CEO, what reaction do you get? And I'll tell you the reaction I get when I raise this topic. Oh, that might be true of other credit unions, but it's not true of us.
nobody wants to think that they're part of the problem, right? And I'm not saying that any CEO of a credit union is part of the problem, but I think that they can be blinded to the real impact of implementing these new systems and of going fully automated. And they might lose sight of the reason that they have all of their members in the first place.
Now, as you say, technology brings big benefits. So you're not saying, and I'm certainly not saying, well, we should just stop doing technology. That, I don't want to bring the era of calculators back, particularly. It's
Or abacuses.
our advocates, yeah. It's so when a point you make in your email to me, why does technology acceleration unintentionally weaken culture and member connection? So how does this happen?
Well, it starts off easy enough, right? We want to automate a few small tasks. We want to make sure that we're managing our members in the right way. And if we can do that through automation, whether it's, automatic email updates or automatic servicing, I can appreciate the idea behind that. But I think the future advantage of credit unions is not who's going to adapt AI or these automation tools the fastest. It's going to be which credit unions can preserve the humanity the best while adopting this new technology, because this technology is here, whether we want to adapt to it or not. It's coming. It is not optional anymore. But I think we need to be using it in a way that allows us to have more connections with our members, more emotional connection to our contribution to those members. And so I think it's a kind of twofold. When we automate things and bring in a lot of these AI tools, it's a double-fold problem. The first problem is, once we take a lot of these tasks and a lot of these duties away from our team members at our credit unions, they're going to be left wondering, what's for me, right? And they got into it not for the fame or the fortune. They got into it because they wanted to help people in their communities, because they wanted to help people reach their financial goals, to save for college, to buy that first house, all of those amazing, wonderful things. But if we start taking away the interactions that they get with our members, I think it's going to be disenfranchising to the actual people that work for the credit unions. And they're going to they didn't sign up to be part of a bank. They signed up to be part of a credit union. And they're going to start looking for, okay, where can I find that fulfillment that I used to get from my job? So that's the first side of it. The second side is, the second we become less communicative and human communicative, not email or something like that, but having that less of a human connection with our members, they're going to start looking for other options for how they can bank. Because if a credit union begins looking like every other financial institution, they're going to go to another financial institution. There's no incentive for them to stay.
Well, a problem here is that credit unions are looking to technology, in particular AI, for cost reduction. And that becomes imperative critical, because the big banks like Chase are spending god-awful amounts of money on AI, and with a primary focus on cost reduction. They're spending a lot, but they're hoping to save a lot down the road. So a credit union has to compete at some point on cost. Can a credit union match cost of JP Morgan Chase? No. But it has to control its own costs, so it's at least in the ballpark. So you can't say, well, don't do this, because if you don't do it, then you'll become economically uncompetitive. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense. And I think therein lies one of the sticky wickets of this entire situation. We know that the vast majority of large financial decisions they're emotional moments in a person's life, right? Like a first mortgage, handling financial hardships, dealing with fraud, starting a business, all those things that people approach and have to deal with when they're dealing with the financial institution, they're emotional moments. And these are moments when people want real humans, not algorithms. Now, the problem I see because they're credit unions, they have to adapt. We have to adapt and evolve to this new time. Otherwise, they are going to not be able to compete with these larger financial institutions. Now, the problem I have with a lot of it is when they talk about cost reduction, right, per member, a lot of times that translates to removing team members from the credit union, right? We're going to replace jobs. We're going to replace, tasks and functions and responsibilities within those roles, and make these people superfluous to the role. And so I worry that they're going to lose a lot of good team members through the automational pieces. Now, it needs to happen, and I'm saddened by it. But in this new world, it's changing so fast, we can't adapt quick enough, and we don't know where it's going. But I think failure to adapt is agreeing to fail as an organization.
And we're seeing wholesale staff reduction in tech companies, for instance. I mean,
Hmm.
huge numbers of people being downsized. And there's a kind of irony there that the computer is eating its own.
There is
It's,
definitely an irony to it. And it's pretty interesting because I think the way it needs to be divided, and not that it's doing that now, but I think the healthiest organizations moving into this new world is that we'll have AI handle the data processing, routine inquiries from our members, operational efficiencies, predicting what's going on, whether it's predictive analysis within markets or investments. But it's going to leave hopefully more time for the humans to handle the things that actually matter to the members, right? Having trust, having empathy, providing guidance, even providing reassurance. I mean, there's a reason that I left my big bank and I bank with a credit union. It's because I know the people when I walk in the door have my best interest at heart, not the financial institutions. And so when I approach my credit union, it's what are you trying to accomplish? Not how can we use one of our products or services to help you. It's a different perspective. And I think that if they can maintain that in this trying time, they can come out on top. Now, is there going to be redundancies? Obviously. Is there going to be huge disruption in how business is done? Absolutely. But if we can hold on to, really tightly grasp the humanity, the thing that makes credit unions differently, I think that they're going to come out of this in a much better light.
there doesn't have to be redundancy. I'm aware of at least one credit union when it does a big technology thing. Doesn't fire anybody. There's no downsizing whatsoever. They have a hiring freeze in that particular section. And over time, people transfer into other jobs or they leave the credit union entirely. Whatever. It's volitional. It's their choice. More credit unions can do the same thing. The most common call to call centers and credit unions often is, what's my balance? Now, I'd be okay if a machine answered that question. I don't need to talk to a human being. What about you?
No, I'm perfectly fine. I mean, I can check my balance online too, and so and
I
maybe
I
I'm
I I know I haven't called in to check my balance in a long, many decades, but apparently this is a common call.
well, and I understand that. I mean, especially if I look back at generations right before my own, you appreciate being able to call and have a conversation and find out what your balance is, and I can understand that. That maybe that's one of the areas where you can take this, I'll say, human capital that you have on staff, and maybe if you automate that, now you can give this person the ability to go and be more human in other ways, whether it's greeting members as they come through the door, whether it's setting up some sort of community enhancement ideas. It's a struggle for me to think that we all want things the way they used to be. I know that, but we have to be adapting in this new time. And maybe it's not that it creates redundancies and it gets rid of people within the organization, but maybe it provides those people within the organizations who have tasks taken off of their plate because of automation. Now maybe they can focus on other things that's more important. I heard about an organization recently, not a credit union, but a different organization recently where they had some staff that were no longer viable because they found automated pieces to take over these very intensive roles. So they did end up having to let these people go because they weren't able to I'll say, retrained on new ideas. But then they used the money they were saving from those people and they ended up hiring violinists to come in and play in their lobby to create a different experience for their staff that would come to work every day. And so I think it's opening the opportunity for more human centered and more artistic pieces, but that doesn't help the end staff or the end team member that's trying to keep their job and trying to keep their sanity in this crazy time. I mean, I think there's hope out there if we choose to look for it.
Oh, I think there's absolute hope. It's a matter of being sensitive to the workforce that you have and the workforce's relationship with credit union members, while also keeping an eye on the balance sheet and what you think your competitors are doing on their balance sheet. So, but
Indeed.
yeah, I, I'm optimistic that this stuff can be handled. That's part of the reason I'm talking to you because I see it as an issue. It's one credit unions have to wrestle with. How do we implement all this new cool technology? How do we embrace AI and yet maintain this human touch, which humans can do? And right now, the machines can't do it. Maybe they can in the future.
It'll never be the same. I would argue. I would argue that interacting with a machine, no matter how good it is, it's not the same as having a face-to-face conversation with another human being. And we all want to be more efficient. We all want to be more productive. But I think if we lose some of the things that make us human, it's really at detriment, not just to the members of the credit union, right, but to our communities and to our society as a whole. And so it's a fine line we're having to walk, but I think it's a line that we have no choice but to walk.
Now, you in your email to me, you mentioned this, the emerging human capacity gap that leaders have to prepare for. Well, what are you talking about there?
That's a great question. So I think that everybody has a deeper capacity to the work that they're doing, whether it's an emotional capacity within that role, whether it's a production capacity, but human capacity. I'm talking more about realizing our true impact on the people that we interact with every single day. Because individuals are very good about talking about what their role is, right? It's our title. It sits in our email signature, it's in our LinkedIn profile. That's what your role is. And let's be honest, on a Monday morning, walking into your credit union, that's not compelling to the deep human need to know that our work matters, right? And so hopefully we also know what somebody in our role does. It's the list of tasks, functions, the KPIs that we get judged against, right? Within our roles that our manager comes to us every yearly or quarterly to come talk about how we can do better to reach those KPIs. So we know what our role is and we know what somebody in that role does. But I would argue that those are kind of the shallow end of the pool, right? People that join credit unions, they usually have this idea, especially when they start, of knowing that their work actually matters. And here's what I'm getting to is that it's easy to talk about what a role is and what somebody in that role does. I think it's harder for us to talk about what doing great work actually means to all those that depend on us. And that's kind of the deep end of the pool. And a lot of people stay protective of that because when we're emotionally invested in our contribution, whether it's our contribution to our organization, our contribution to our members, or our contribution to our communities, you're putting yourself out there emotionally, right? You're making yourself vulnerable. And so if we end up losing that job, we've lost kind of a piece of ourselves. And it can be scary to put yourself out there emotionally, just like a relationship, right? To really commit to a relationship, you're putting yourself out there emotionally and you're putting yourself maybe in harm's way to where you could be hurt. And so I think a lot of people keep their jobs at an arm's distance and they don't necessarily explore that deeper piece of what doing great work means, what it means to all their coworkers that depend on them completing their work, what it means to all the members that are trying to figure out their own financial situations, and what it means to the communities that depend on having a credit union there to help start small businesses, to keep their economies running, to help people when they're running into trouble, to save for that first home. We need to do a better job of helping people see the true impact of their work. And hopefully with taking over a lot of this automation, that's going to handle some of the does categories that I was just talking about. And hopefully then we can start focusing more on what it means. And I think if we can bridge that gap while we're trying to implement these new technologies, I think we're going to come out so much stronger afterwards, and our relationships with our members would be a lot stronger as well.
Do people have to be trained to do that work better?
I don't necessarily think people have to be trained, but a lot of times we get into a role and we have all the aspirations in the world, right? Because nobody starts their first day of work and is like, I can't wait to be mediocre. Like that does not happen. I would argue that after months and years in a role, people can lose sight of why they cared and they can lose sight of the impact that their work actually has because we get stuck in the day-to-day minutia, right? All the things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis, right? That one crazy member that always comes in on a Tuesday to argue with us, or whatever it might be, we get distracted by those things and it takes our attention off of what I would consider the real purpose behind the work of a credit union, right? Which is providing peace of mind to members of your community. That's what credit unions are actually doing. It's not about lending money and holding money. No. What credit unions' real job is providing peace of mind to all of their members. And we lose sight of that in all of the financial minutia.
And there are actually some employees who enjoy dealing with the crazy member who comes in once a week to argue about something. And not only do they enjoy it, some of them are actually good at it. Whereas I would have very little patience in those situations. I've talked to people they specialize in that. They enjoy it.
Well, and
So,
there's people with a natural disposition to want to handle difficult customers and clients and members. I remember years ago, I was working for a call center when I was very young. There was one person on our team. He goes, hey, if you ever get any irate clients that call in, send them to me. I want to handle them. And you know what? I was thankful to have that person there because it saved a lot of heartache and headache for me of trying to deal with somebody that doesn't actually want to be helped. And I'm sure we've all encountered people like that need help but don't want help.
so if you're in charge of a credit union now, what are you doing with the workforce?
I think I'm constantly reinforcing the impact of the work that they're having. I think it's something that isn't done often enough. Now, credit unions do it better than other financial institutions, but I think anything you can do to continually help your team members form that emotional connection to their contribution is going to allow them to navigate these treacherous waters of AI and automation as they are coming through. Because, I mean, it is a huge tsunami of change that's headed our way. And we need to find a way that we can ground our team members in a place to where they can overcome these challenges. They can deal with the uncertainty of the world that we're living in. I think that comes with helping your team members have that deeper meaning behind their work and deriving fulfillment from the work that they're doing.
And I suppose part of leadership's role is to reinforce for the workforce that human beings still have a part to play here, despite our increasing reliance on AI tools, and just keep emphasizing that message.
You know, I might go a step further. I don't think humans just have a part to play in it. I think we are an essential piece moving into this future. We may not know exactly how our role is going to be redefined, but we're not just a part of what's going to happen. We need to be we're the catalyst that's bringing it in, but we also are going to need to be the catalyst of how we apply it and then how we use it to service our members.
Well, that's opening up a whole big debate about AI and the goal of AI and the pursuit of artificial general intelligence, which is the holy grail of the business. And once you get that going, do you really need humans? That's the good news is we're not there yet, and it's going to take some years for us to get there. So
I think it's closer than we think, Robert.
it's happening, but the AI guys that I hear from are they're still thinking 3 to 5 years, which is close. I mean, it's not far away at all. I mean, a car lasts now 8 years or 10 years or something like that. I mean, this stuff is coming down the pike. I've never seen anything adopted at the rate of LLM artificial intelligence. It's just staggering. And AI's been around for years. Machine learning. It was called other things like machine learning.
Hmm. Monte Carlo simulations before that. And no, and here's what I want people to really understand is like, okay, yes, AI is coming and it's going to change everything we do about work. Okay, we get it. It's going to change everything. But like, I want everybody to think back, 20 years ago when the internet was first coming online, right? People were just starting to do email, right? But think about all the things that the internet has taken over since then. Like I remember having to call Movie Phone to find out what times the movies were playing at a theater or check the newspaper. Now there's an app I can check it immediately, right? You used to have to send a letter, put a stamp on it. Now it's electronic. All these little things. We used to have to physically sign documents to put an offer on a house, to take out a loan. Now it's all DocuSign. So if you think about all the things that the internet has taken over in our lives and is now absolutely essential to do anything, apparently, AI is going to impact us even more, in my opinion.
Oh, it definitely is, and certainly will continue to do so. I don't see it as a big threat if organizations realize that humans are still going to be part of the equation.
I think that's a very good point you make, Robert. I don't think I mean, maybe there is a 20% chance of it actually being a true threat. What I think people need to realize is they need to stop being fearful of AI and of these large language models. I think they need to start being curious because there's a huge opportunity, windfall for people that are willing to learn this new technology, willing to learn how it can apply to the work that they're already doing, and then save them time from the menial tasks that people have to do on a day in and day out basis. Because a human being was not meant to stare at a spreadsheet for hours a day. We weren't. That is not what our body or our mind was meant for. And I think if we can find ways to take over the things that are inherently not human so that we can focus on things that are human, then I would call that a win at the end of the day.
And I use AI primarily to save time in my
Hmm.
life. I'm not replacing myself. I'm actually becoming a bit more efficient. Instead of spending 10 minutes doing Google searches to find out something, I just ask Google Gemini to tell me the answer. And within under a minute, it usually tells me the right answer.
Indeed. And with the new agentic AI that's coming out, it's now able to go and complete tasks on my behalf. Now it's a bit scary the first couple of times you do it, and you kind of need to be the riding shotgun with AI while it's doing it, but it's moving much faster than we thought. And the agentic stuff is amazing for doing tasks that I don't want to have to waste my time doing.
Even Google acknowledges that for complex tasks like booking a trip, you're talking a year or two out. We're not close, or that's at least what Google says, and I think they're right. Because you have little toleration if the machine messes up. Put you in the wrong hotel in the wrong city. Oh, I didn't know you wanted to go to Heathrow. Oh, yeah, sorry, I got you in this other London airport.
We thought you meant Paris, Texas, not Paris,
Yeah,
France.
absolutely. So, so yeah, agentic stuff is going to be, and so much of what a credit union does is transactional stuff, and transactional stuff is really wonderful food for AI.
Definitely. But it's not the transactional stuff that got people to walk in the door and decide to be members, is it?
No, it's usually because you know someone is a credit union member and they tell you how great the credit union is. I think word of mouth is the primary sales tool for credit unions.
Agreed.
If they're listening, they could stop spending all that money on advertising. I'm kidding about that. I think advertising plays some role, but I do think it's word of mouth that generally gets you in a credit union. Now, how long have you been a credit union member?
So I actually got grandfathered into a credit union with my wife had a credit union when we got married. And so when we were talking about combining finances, I just did some research. I was like, okay, we'll keep separate accounts for a while. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not going to say the bank because it's a large bank, but my bank that I went to, that I could walk to from my house, it was a bank that I'd been banking with since I was 17 years old and had my first job. I walked in there and they were installing like 3-inch thick glass, or I guess it was acrylic, between the tellers and then the customers that were sitting in their lobby. And I was like, why are you putting it in the glass? Like, oh, it's just our new policy that we put in the glass. I was like, well, it seems like you're kind of separating yourself from the people that, store their money here. This doesn't seem like a relationship. It seems like me coming in and asking for an extra bowl of porridge. And
That's what you see in a check cashing place.
well, exactly. And what bothered me, well, and maybe I need to move if that's the direction that my neighborhood's going. But that's exactly what it felt like. It felt more sterile. It felt less human. And I go, okay, this is not working for me. We got to look at other options. And my wife was like, hey, I love my credit union. Let's check with them. And sure enough, they were great. And so I think that was about 12 years ago. We switched fully over. It's a wild thing to kind of watch. We'll call it a bank. Watch this bank transition from like, okay, great. I feel like I can chat with their manager. I feel like I can have a conversation to all of a sudden it's only transactional. Even though there's still a human on the other side of that glass, it's only transactional. And so, I mean, I can go to the ATM to do that, right? I can't talk to the ATM about, hey, I am trying to save money so I can get my wife's engagement ring, which is the conversation that I did have with that bank. I'm trying to save money to get this. Help me, plan this out so we can do it. At the time, they were able to have that conversation. Today, I wouldn't feel comfortable having that conversation because there's a physical separation, but also an emotional separation from me and the people that are working there. And so I closed my accounts with them, and I have not gone back in that bank since.
Do you use AI?
I do. I use AI in my business as well, and it's a lot of it's for time saving. Especially, I give quite a few speeches throughout the year, so I like to take when I give a speech, I'll collect the audio, have it transcribed by AI, and then I'll have it pull out some salient points from it. Okay, what are some things that went well? What could have been phrased differently to land better? I love the AI tools because it allows me at least to run ideas past information that I've already collected. So I have some of the large language models that I use. I can upload all the contents of my books and my social media, and then I can ask it questions about, my beliefs, and I can question myself about it. And I can come up, hey, give me 3 rebuttals to this idea that I have, and it'll spit those back. It's like, all right, great. Help me develop rebuttals to those, right? Or counter arguments to those. And so it allows me to have kind of a conversation like I would have with I'll say like a marketing director of my company, which I don't have a marketing director, but to kind of plan some of these things out and kind of see the holes in my own logic, which is really invaluable for me, just because I am kind of a one-man shop. I do have employees, but they're mostly for business development and then also for some design purposes. So as far as running my business, it's great. It helps. It's great for planning. It's great for creation. It's great for kind of understanding the breakdown of what I need to accomplish in my day to day. So I love it. I really do. I'm hesitant to put a lot of too much personal information into the large language models, but I mean, you put as much as you're comfortable with, right? Just like anything else.
Now, have you asked AI, would a credit union be a credit union without humans in it?
I have not. Have you asked AI that?
No, I think I'm going to. And I'm not aware of any fully automated credit unions, although we're seeing some that are veering in that direction. They're more pilots, I think, than anything else. But yeah, could a credit union be a credit union without human staff?
Well, that begs
So,
the question, Robert. If you don't mind, I would love to ask you a question on this. Do you think you could create an actual credit union as an app? So maybe
oh,
you have people running the background of it because you're still missing that human component, right? But if you only have members, is it possible to do that and maintain what it is to truly be a credit union?
that's a good question that I think a lot of credit union executives are wrestling with right now. And there's some attempts in that direction. It's early days to say how successful they are. And I imagine JP Morgan Chase is wrestling with the same phenomenon at its scale. So I don't think the answer is known just yet, but certainly people are kicking that tire.
Well, absolutely. And think about if you could figure out how to do it smoothly, all of a sudden you can have the C-level suite looking at all of their employees like, okay, we can get rid of a lot of the people and a lot of the offices and a lot of the physical constraints that come with that. And so it's a bit concerning. I don't know where things are going, but it is a point of being concerned, I think.
Yeah, I just asked Google Gemini if a credit union could be a credit union without human staff. And Google Gemini is very smart. It says it refers to me having a conversation with you on this very topic.
Does it
So,
really?
yeah, well, Google accesses stuff that's open. I think it has total access to my Gmail, for instance.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, I guess. Or maybe I'm just more cynical than you are. Can you teach a machine culture? Can you teach a machine the culture that distinguishes one credit union from another? I would say probably you can. I mean, does that sound crazy?
I don't know if it's actually teaching it culture or it's giving it rules and parameters by which to
Yeah,
operate.
that would be it'd be rule based. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it can live. You build the fence lines, and it can live within inside those fence lines. But is it going to be a culture add, right? Because you've probably seen this. You bring a new team member into a group that exists within an organization, and that team member brings their own flavor, their own ideas, and it's not that they change the culture, right? But they're a culture add to the organization already established. And I don't think you're going to be able to get that from AI.
Why can't I teach AI the culture? I think I could.
I
It's
think you
just
could teach them the culture, or at least what it means to be part of that culture, and I bet it would operate within it. But I'm not sure it fully under or grasps or understands the concept of an organizational culture. Because there's a depth to it, right? An organizational culture, like when you walk into a credit, it has a feeling to it. And if you're working there, I'm sure it has its own feeling. I've had many jobs where I walked in and the feeling was kind of dreadful and I didn't end up not working there long. But other organizations that I loved, or where I had amazing mentors as managers, the culture that I felt there was more emotional than it was reactionary based on rules and parameters that were put in place. And I think that therein lies, I think, one of the places it's going to fail to be part of the culture. It might understand the culture, I guess. It might be able to operate within it, but I don't think it has the emotion to appreciate a culture that's been cultivated in the right way.
that's a good point. It's hard to see it really applauding that culture. Yes, every organization has a unique culture, some more unique than others. It's and you could teach the culture to the machine, but would the machine live the culture? There's the question. Probably not. Whereas employees who really buy into the culture will live it.
Very true. It's that
So,
emotional commitment to their contribution.
so flash forward 5 years. what do you expect to see at the credit union that you use? What
I-
effect of AI do you think you will see there?
I'm hoping a lot of that is going to happen behind the scenes. I hope it'll still be conversation based. Maybe they take out some of the desks so we can just sit in chairs or couches to chat. And they'll probably have, listening devices that will manage stuff and record it for, posterity's sake. But I'm hoping it allows them to be more human, not staring at a computer while we're having a conversation or having, it up in front of them. I would love for it, and this is me and I'm a radical optimist, Robert. I really am. I'm desperate for the next giant shift to be a human one. So hopefully after we implement these things 5 years down the road, a lot of the stuff's taken care of, a lot of the automation's taken care of. Now it can just be a conversation between two humans, and then AI will go and execute those things. Hopefully. That is a perfect world, and hopefully I would get there in my flying car. But yeah, that's the dream 5 years from now.
We may get there. I mean, yeah, I think
It's possible.
machines do so much stuff for me, and it's stuff I used to do, like coming up with a map to get me from A to B on the roads in a car. I was pretty good at doing that. Now I just ask Google Maps or Apple, you know, how do I get there? And it shows me the route, and I say, good, let's do it.
Well,
It's
now there's
somehow
cars that you're not even the one that needs the route. The car needs the route because it's going to
right.
drive you there. And so it made me more optimistic riding in and be like, oh my goodness, we can do this. It's a huge step change, I think, in the lives of every person. And I think it's only slowly starting to get applied to every other aspect, but the acceleration is happening. And there's no possibility of it slowing down anytime soon outside of like a solar flare. I think we need to be optimistic about it. I think we need to be constantly looking for opportunities to improve our productivity and our efficiencies, because the efficiency is the machine's edge. But I would argue that purpose is the human's edge in this future world. And if we can bring purpose to the workplace and we let the automations and AI and the large language models handle these things outside of human interaction, it's going to leave us hopefully a lot more fulfilled and a lot happier and with more authentic connections with the humans that we do encounter.
Go back in history, a credit union employee probably knew most of the members that came into the credit union because everything was small scale. Like we're going back enough years. They knew them, they knew their problems, knew what they're good at, what they weren't good at, why they weren't paying their bills, if they weren't paying their bills, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a real edge. That was a useful thing to have. It was good. A lot of that knowledge has gone away due to scale. I mean, 77,000 members. Nobody knows all the members. I mean, even the machine doesn't know all the members.
Mm-hmm.
Machine probably would do a better job of knowing all the members than any human being would, actually, strangely enough. It's but I do think I come back to agreeing with you that there needs to be a balance here. And credit unions are still struggling to find that balance. It's a balance between cost savings, efficiencies, human touch. It's very complicated mathematics. So,
What and these efficiencies that are coming down the pike, those are not the enemy, right? I think losing connection is the enemy in this situation, right? Because automation should eliminate friction, but not the relationships that we have with our members. And so anything we can do, and think if we could take our members and take a lot of the menial tasks they have to do on a day-to-day basis off their plate, and now all of a sudden they have the ability to start having more meaningful interactions with the members that actually come in to their buildings, I think that that's a good thing in the long term. No, but the question is, how do we get there, right? Because it's still foggy as far as a path forward, at least in my opinion.
it's early days. I mean, the World Wide Web came about circa 1994, 95. It took 5 to 10 years before there was anything like significant adoption of it. We're in very early days of AI. People were terrified of the web way back when. They were certainly terrified of smartphones way back when. Now people would rather give up a finger than give up their cell phone.
That's true. Well, and when I was a kid, it's don't talk to strangers, don't get in strangers' cars. And now on my phone, I'll order a stranger to come pick me up in an Uber and drive me somewhere. Times have changed, and they're going to continue to change. And I'm excited about the future. I have concerns, obviously, but I'm very excited. I think that we're in a moment to be optimistic.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey again. That's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support. The CU 2.0 podcast.